Welcome back to the Driveway Beers podcast with Mike and Alex. As always, we appreciate you listening. Please rate us on all the podcast platforms. Like, subscribe, comment, share wherever else you're listening, and enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to another episode. We appreciate you coming back. As always, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Want to thank Adam Chubbuck with Douglas Realty in Pasadena. That's tacmd.com, tacmd.com. Real estate market's going to get more difficult to navigate as the rates get moved all around and as the wintertime comes around. So go talk to Adam at tacmd.com. That's tacmd.com. Let him guide you through the process. If it's not the time for you to buy or for you to sell, he'll let you know that. He's not going to just push you into something you don't want to do just to get your money. This is going to be an interesting episode. This person is a controversial person to some, and to others, not so much. The thing with this topic is we're going to talk about Elon Musk in this episode. I want to say it was last Tuesday. We're recording this on the 16th. So I want to say it was the 14th or 13th of October. SpaceX, which is a company that he started and he owns, shot up a rocket into space to go to the space station. And then what happened was they retrieved the rocket. And essentially this thing powered itself back down to Earth. And it was almost, they kind of equated to like chopsticks catching the fly again. And then it just lowered it back down on the base so they can reuse the rocket, although I think they have to make some modifications to it. But people who are familiar with SpaceX will remember the times when they had the rocket land on the platform in the water. Well, now they're with these bigger rockets. I guess they have to catch them, or that's how they're retrieving them. But of course, because it was Elon Musk's company, not everything was roses for people. Even though this is an engineering feat that we've never seen before, but because of his political stances, now people just can't give him the flowers for it, I guess. Did you see the landing, or did you see the recapture? And then two, do you think it gets overshadowed because of who he is?
So I saw both, like the old version and the new version. You know, the one where first of all, just getting those rockets to come back balanced on essentially just their own thrust as they come down, and then controlling that thrust so they land softly is wild. And anyone who remembers, you know, I mean, I'm too young to remember it, but I've seen it, the old Saturn V rockets and stuff like that would just, you know, they were 300 feet long and they'd blast off into space, just ejecting stages, and they would just burn up in the atmosphere or whatever as they came in. And then the only thing none of it was reusable. Even the capsule itself was not reusable. Then you had the space shuttle, which the big orange part was a fuel tank. That was not reusable. That would just burn up. But the two white rockets attached to that, they were reusable. They'd come down via parachute. But then they'd have to go find them somewhere in the ocean. You know, they kind of knew where they were. They still have to look for them. The fact that now we're at the point where these things just come back and land like where they started is pretty wild. So for me, I don't care about the politics. I think it's cool what he's doing. And no one hated him before he, you know, kind of started shading a little bit right and, you know, talked about and bought Twitter. That's when everyone started hating the guy.
Yeah. And one of the things that I don't think people realize is that on the political left, the man was revered before his politics came out because he was pushing the electric cars with Tesla, solar roofs with Solar City that ended up getting bought by Tesla, the power banks, which, yes, they were useful for the cars, but they were really for home energy storage, which stored the solar energy. It made basically solar roofs more viable. And then he's got SpaceX, which basically is doing what NASA can't do anymore. And he's also got another company called the Boring Company, which aptly named, right?
Yeah.
It's essentially a company who's revolutionizing tunneling. So rather than it taking like decades to finish a tunnel, they can finish it within a year. Mm-hmm. And if you've gone to Vegas, they've got that underground system where you jump in a Tesla, and it can essentially, the autonomous driving can take you to the next stop because it's all in a closed system. Initially, though, he was going to use it for the Hyperloop.
Yeah.
And that was a whole nother company that he was going to try and build. But essentially, like, he was moving us into the future all on his own, where the government couldn't do it. I mean, just look at Starlink, for example. So Starlink has brought high-speed broadband to more rural communities than the government has to date at a fraction of the cost. Mm-hmm. Like, the amount of money the government's put in to rural internet and gotten nothing to show for it is mind-blowing. And meanwhile, Starlink goes up, and for I think it's like 115 or 120 a month, you can have high-speed internet. Now, it's not necessarily cheap, but he said the price will go down as it becomes more adopted. So, but because of his political leanings, though, the man just catches shit all the time.
Yeah, but you see it too from the other, like, you know, when some athlete takes a knee or something during the anthem, and then that dude could play the game of his life, and everyone loved him before he took a knee, but then all of a sudden he hates America. He took a knee. I don't give a shit whether they take a knee or not. I don't really care. I don't really care if they do play the national anthem during a game, to be honest with you. Like, but you know, that's just me. But these people are taking it so seriously. You know, some athlete takes a knee, and they hate the military. They hate the. Okay, you know, I don't. But then the dude goes and throws for 300 yards. You know, it's.
So we're not going to talk about SpaceX because that's like, I feel like I came over for the wrong show.
I mean, if you wanted, do we know of any actual SpaceX other than the porn?
What about the Green Girl and, you know, Star Trek? No, getting to what you're saying, I agree totally. Because look, I'm not an Elon Musk fan at all, and it's funny as looking at these things, but I don't understand this whole cancel culture of why would, if I heard a company was going to support Trump, or I heard another company was going to support Kamala, why am I going to stop saying I'm not going to go there anymore because I don't support that? If people knew who their athletes supported, the people that don't come out and say these things, you'd be canceling everyone, and you couldn't even enjoy your damn life.
Yeah.
So if Elon Musk is doing stuff that's bettering the world, even though he does look like a little Pillsbury Doughboy, that's coming from a guy that looks like a Pillsbury Doughboy. You know, like it's kind of funny because, like, you look at this guy and I wouldn't even think that he's someone that's next level thinking and creating all these new things just by looking at him. But that's why you can't do that. So yeah, I'm constantly interested in any type of advancement you can get, no matter where you stand politically.
Yeah, I just think the reason why I bring it up is because, one, the things his company is doing, or all of the companies that he has, it seems like he would fit in on the left politically. I mean, he brought electric cars to the masses when Ford, GM, Stellantis, like all these major companies couldn't do it, right?
Before Tesla was what, the GM EV1, which was a complete, like, they just crushed the last one. You had the Nissan Leaf, which maybe had a 100-mile range. It wasn't fast like the Model S was, because the Model S was the first one that came out, right?
Yeah, that was the first one he brought out. But I think then he brought it out after the Leaf, but
you're talking fully electric, not the hybrids?
Yeah, fully electric. So, like,
yeah, I like Toyota, not like Priuses. I mean, the Priuses have been around for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, you can usually find them in the left lane on 50. That's usually where they seem to be located.
Thanks a lot, guys.
But no, but yeah, that car. Now, I'm still not an electric car fan. I don't, you know, I think they are what they are. But, you know, you can microwave a steak, but I prefer mine grilled.
Sure.
You know, and to me, they're not there yet for the driving that I have to do.
Right, but I mean, as far as like the political left side of things,
yeah, you think they'd be all about it? They were.
They were. I mean, the celebrities that are now slamming the right were the first adopters of his first car, right? They were the first Prius adopters. They were the first Model S people, right?
Yeah. Well, I think usually if you were to look at tech in general, probably people who had more liberal political leanings would be your early adopters,
Right.
For any sort of technology that comes out. When the iPhones came out, there were people like, "Oh, we don't need smartphones. My flip phone's fine." And I had a BlackBerry Storm 2, which was an absolute piece of garbage. And the first iPhone I got my hands on was a 4. But there are other people. A friend of mine is like, he goes and waits in line for iPhones, which I don't understand.
I don't get that either. But I also don't have an iPhone.
Did you guys ever have a Nextel?
I didn't, but I always wanted because they had the push to talk. I thought that was the coolest thing ever.
Well, it was until you got into the group that I was in, because anybody can go and it beeps and you go, take your pants off. I want to see your balls. Like doing that nonstop, no matter where you're at. You could be in church and you wouldn't notice. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, what are they saying?
And then people are asking, why did you show him your balls? He's not here. But that would be what? Was that? You could still take pics on. They had pictures on cameras back then.
The first Nextels I ever saw was when I was working on an ambulance, and they didn't have them. It was the old school. But at the time, that Nextel network had the best coverage. Mm-hmm. And then Sprint had.
I think the phones were yellow, weren't they?
They had all different colors, on the ambulance, they were yellow, so we wouldn't freaking be idiots and lose them. We still lost them. But, yeah.
You want to know a fun fact? So, the dumbest thing that Sprint could have done was buy Nextel. And the reason why was so back in the day when it was like 3G technology, Verizon and Sprint used a technology called CDMA. And AT&T and Nextel used what they called GSM, which was actually the world standard. Like everyone else outside of the US uses GSM. Well, if you had a CDMA phone from Sprint or Verizon, you couldn't then take that phone and go on AT&T or Nextel. So essentially, Sprint bought Nextel, and none of the Nextel customers could use the Sprint network, and the Sprint customers couldn't use the Nextel network. So you literally still had two separate companies until they went to 4G, and then 4G it did away with all that that type of technology.
Yeah.
But it killed them forever because Sprint's network was so shit back then, and so they just associated everything with Sprint. I was like, well, I'm not going on that shit network. And if you didn't, if the phones couldn't work on both, you couldn't take advantage of the Nextel network. So they just got it almost killed. Well, I think it did kill Sprint because is Sprint still even around? They're not.
T-Mobile bought them, right? Or Verizon bought them.
I thought it was T-Mobile. I think T-Mobile did because T-Mobile's German.
Yeah,
and there was that big controversy of like,
I think they did.
Big and,
well, I think they did, and they bought it because at that time when they were going from 4G and 5G, it was all about what spectrum each company owned, because that was what 4G and 5G were going to go off of. So basically, the lower the radio waves, the further it'll travel, which means the better coverage you have. And at the time, T-Mobile only had like the super high bands, and so that's why their network sucked for the longest time. And I think when they bought out Sprint and they got all that low level spectrum
just to get the bands,
and they got their network.
It's like basically why like Southwest Airlines bought AirTran.
Yep.
Just to get the routes.
Yep.
So because AirTran had everything, because Southwest was at more your like here their airport was BWI, not Dulles or National, and in New York they had Islip, but not Kennedy, Newark, or LaGuardia. When they bought AirTran, they had no interest in AirTran's equipment, employees, nothing. They wanted their slots at these airports.
They wanted the Boston slots and they wanted the LaGuardia slots.
Yeah.
Because if you were on Southwest, if you wanted to go to Boston, you had to fly to Manchester.
Or
Providence. Yeah, you couldn't fly into Boston on Southwest. So when they bought AirTran and they slowly phased the brand out, they were then able to take those slots and go into Boston. It's really interesting to listen to the reasons why some of these companies actually buy other companies or merge, because it's never what the public thinks it is. It's always something else in the background. It's like, oh, they're going to combine and make this super huge company. Nah, the buying company generally never wants anything to do with the other company. They just want the assets it has to make itself better.
Kind of like when Mercedes-Benz bought Chrysler.
Jesus.
And then sucked all the talent out of Chrysler, and then sold off Chrysler, and that's why like you had those ugly Durangos and
Well, and now I mean, shit,
the
man.
Dodge Journey. Like,
Did you? Stellantis is, from everything I've heard, Dodge and Jeep might be bankrupt as companies. So Stellantis, it got to the point where the grandfather of the original Chrysler, the guy who created Chrysler. Mm-hmm. He actually wrote an open letter and then made a video about wanting to buy the brand back from Stellantis because the guy was like, "You're running this into the ground."
Yeah.
You're like, I mean, right now Chrysler is one car. It's the Pacifica.
Yeah.
The 300's gone.
Yep.
So the guy's like, "Look, if this is what you're going to do to the brand, let me buy it from you. I'll buy it back, and I'll create the company again."
Yeah.
And of course, they're not going to do that. But that guy's got to be the worst CEO in the history of cars. Like, he's literally, he drove Jeep into the, like, think about Jeep. You drove that shit into the ground. Like,
yeah. And someone will buy, like, if they get bought out, someone will buy the whole company just to get Jeep.
they want the name. They just want the name.
They don't want
the Wrangler.
They don't want anything else. And you know how I feel about Jeep bros and Jeeps, but
My brother's one. You guys can fight later.
that's your bro.
Yes. My bro is a Jeep bro.
I love Jeeps. I miss mine.
I like old ones, like
I had a rag top.
I like them when they were
4.0-liter
affordable.
inline six,
They're
like
not
bulletproof.
The cheapest Jeep right now is $50,000.
Yeah, no thanks.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's got an automatic transmission and a 3.5 liter V6. It's like just milk toast. But no thanks.
My buddies and I used to go to the car show downtown. I would get the tickets from the radio station. We'd end up getting drunk off our asses, go to the car show, and then that's when we started looking at some of these new Jeeps that were coming out. And I'm like, fully loaded $65K? Like, when did this become? When did this become almost a luxury vehicle at this point? Because it's kind of crazy to see. And oh, by the way, we'd get hammered, end up at Abbey Burger eating weird meats and things, and it was always a fun day.
And I know this is going to sound stupid. It's almost like a sports radio host saying that they can manage the Orioles better than the GM.
Yeah. Is there who does that?
I don't know who does that.
I don't know.
It's not you. It's not you.
It's not me.
No, it's someone else.
He goes to another school.
Probably, yeah. But if they were smart at Jeep, they would have kept Jeep as the Wrangler, the 4-door, the 2-door, whatever iteration. Fuck the truck. The Gladiator should never have been made. They had Ram in the stable. They should have kept it that way. But in all honesty, and they probably could have gotten away with an actual Cherokee, not the car Cherokee.
Yeah.
They should have kept the original Grand Cherokee as a Cherokee. Then when they created the Cherokee L, the Grand Wagoneer the Wagoneer and the Grand Wagoneer, all three of those should have been Chryslers. Mm-hmm. Because you can't by doing what they did, they're fucking the Jeep name up. Yeah. By those other three. I mean, a Grand Wagoneer is $120,000.
They're nuts.
No one's paying that for a Jeep.
It's falls somewhere between a Tahoe and a Suburban. Like, it's big.
I think it's suburban-ish, right? I mean,
it's not as big, but it's
okay.
So like Sequoia size, yeah,
or the
G-Wagon.
The Galanda wagon.
So that thing hasn't changed in over 50 years. And they're still charging $120,000 for it.
No, like when you see like some sort of like rebels in some third world country, and they've got an old UN G wagon with like a with a BMP on the back of it, like that's what they're it's the same thing. So the ones we have here, they'll have leather and nav and all that stuff. But
I mean, look, these cars now, and then how crazy the market got when they were calling people back, trying to buy cars from them that they just had, put miles on, because then they can resell it and make even more money on it. They were giving you money on the car, so to get you to buy a new car and get this inventory, it was a crazy time, especially during the pandemic.
Well, I just saw a thing. They're still selling Toyota Siennas. I mean, base is $54,000 it's for the Sienna Premium, like, but then you add all the dealer stupid crap, and it gets up to 63. like 63 grand for a minivan. Like that's just insanity. But someone will buy it. New suckers born every day.
I mean, what's a Toyota though? With Sienna, is that in the 60s still, or are they in like the 50s? Okay.
So there was all the top trim for the Sienna and the Odyssey. They tried to keep it under 50, but it was like 49.9 because people would balk at 50 grand for a minivan. Now you're in like Tahoe territory. Just get the big truck.
Right.
But now those are so expensive that they just decided to bring it back down. But I'm not, I paid mine off. I'm going to drive until the wheels fall off. So.
Speaking of Tahoes and Yukons, I finally have figured out what's wrong with mine.
Nothing?
No, there is. So it is the torque converter. So I took it after the two mechanics. I had a third one come look at it, and it was doing the thing, like the revving while he was in it. And he said, I'm pretty sure that's a torque converter. So I took it back to the transmission place, rode with the guy. He had it plugged in, and he was like, yeah, your torque converter's just about toast. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, so we're going to replace it. And he said, no, not yet. He goes, we're going to put this stuff called shutter fix in it, and we're going to see if it helps it go away. He goes, I've seen this stuff work 6 months to a year before you have to replace it. Mm-hmm. So it's been about 4 or 5 days of driving it. Mm-hmm. It's helped it a little bit, but I still think I mean, if I know it's going to have to happen, why not just do it?
Yeah. Or just put more shutter fix on it.
I thought about that. Put another. You like it? It's like it's a red lube tube.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
I've got a couple of those.
It's called a friction modifier. Mm. Yeah. Might be good for one of those Diddy parties rather than the baby oil. Take that. There was a joke. I wonder if when he's in jail, when his boyfriend's giving it to him, will he tell him to take that? Or can't stop, won't stop?
I don't know if he's going to make it that far.
Did not kill himself.
That's the rumor, that he did not.
We're too soon on that. We got to wait for that.
We have to wait to wait. Not that I'm hoping that happens.
Yeah,
we're not hoping for death.
But I wonder, going back to Elon, it's just
that's where we started. Yeah.
What would the dude have to do to not be hated anymore? Just for, I mean, he never came out and said that he's. Did he ever come out and say, "Oh, he's a Trump guy"?
Well, his money went to Trump.
Okay.
Well, and he just showed up at his rally too.
That too.
So but here's the thing, like, to me, it's a greater sign of how when these elections are so polarizing at the national level, so polarizing and so, people will just absolutely hate someone that's done some great stuff because they come out on the wrong side of wherever they're at, that the government has gotten too big and that plays too big of a role in people's lives when the federal government really should not. That's not how this was envisioned at all from the beginning. As citizens, we should have very little interaction with the federal government.
So there was, I don't think him supporting Trump is about him liking everything about Trump. Mm. I think there's a lot to dislike about the other side right now. And one of the examples that he was giving was that he was trying to get, I think, 40 more SpaceX launches off the coast of California. So they already do launches off California, but he wanted to do more. And I guess the Oceanic Committee or something, and it's all appointed by the governor's office, I think. And of course, they're Democrat leaning. And they're denying his request for 40 more launches with SpaceX. And in their meeting that was recorded, they all said it was because of his politics and his views on X. And it's like, wait a minute. So this liberal bastion of a state is literally going to go against the political leanings of the left and pushing society forward and doing things with space to push society forward, that you're going to deny the only guy putting things into space the extra launches he needs solely for political reasons. And I think this is just another example of we're seeing this from that side of the fence going after the other side of the fence for their thoughts and their opinions.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. You got Looney Tunes on the right.
Oh, yeah.
There's always has been. I mean, shoot. We've said this from day one. We probably have more liberal leanings than we do conservative leanings. But at the same time, some of the things that I'm seeing, for example, like the Bureau of Disinformation
Yeah.
that was set up in the Department of Homeland Security to combat misinformation, which they never stated who was going to be the decider of what was misinformation. But all of a sudden, the government was going to tell us what's true and what's false. It's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. Like, the First Amendment was set up so that we could combat government disinformation and the propaganda bullshit. And so, you know, and the other funny part of this is there's videos going around of a guy from the 60s, I believe. The guy's name is Yuri Bezmenov. And Yuri Bezmenov was a former KGB asset.
Oh, I watched his interview on YouTube.
Well, so there's another one, though. And it basically talks about how the Russians concocted the plan to subvert the United States because they weren't powerful enough to go to war with the United States. They didn't have the technology. They didn't have the weapons. As much as they told us in the 80s and the 90s that they did, they never did. It was all outdated tech. They didn't have the money to upgrade anything. It was a lot of dog and pony show for them.
You're not telling me Chappie died for nothing, are you? Sorry, this is an Iron Eagle reference.
He might have.
Love it.
And so they came up with this idea of how to take down the United States from the inside using psychological warfare. And man, he said there were 6 pillars of society, and he names them and said, this is how you subvert each one of them. And lo and behold, like, you look at what's happening today, and it's happening. Like, all of this shit is happening. And it's wild. And so I think Elon's support for Trump has nothing to do with the man. Mm-hmm. And everything to do with going against what this whole globalist society stuff is going on.
And I think he's also concerned over, I mean, we talk about First Amendment rights and all the other things. Like, the big issue with how X, Twitter, whatever is set up now is that you can spread false information and propaganda really quickly, and people will run with it. And there's so much false information out there now coming from both sides that you don't know what you can believe. And so I think that's part of it as well. But he was just heard in an interview saying if Trump doesn't win, he's like, I'm going to be in trouble. So, you know, and I think that's the problem with a lot of people when it becomes political. Sometimes it does become about your finances, what's best suited for you, what's best suited for, you know, if you own a business, a small business, maybe it is Trump. You know, so you start looking at some of these things, but does that end up making someone evil or awful, or I can't have dealings with them anymore? It's just stupid.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things. Is like, you know, there are family members, not in my family, but friends. Like, they don't speak to each other anymore because of it. And you know, there are certain things that, you know, for me and my family that I find more beneficial one side or the other. It used to be pretty cut and dry. You know, Republicans were the party of big business, and the Democrats were the party of the union workers and the blue collar guy. It was pretty simple. And I was looked at like as a vote for the Republicans was a vote against my own economic interests. However, stuff has gotten so muddled and flipped. And then raising 3 boys, you know, with all these warmongers running around, I'm not necessarily trying to vote for more forever wars so that my kids can go get their guts blown out in some stupid country that we're going to forget about in 10 years. So that's where my concerns changed, you know. So, but I don't hate someone for disagreeing with me. You know, it's okay.
I just don't get it. I don't.
It's your right to be wrong. That's fine.
Well, you know what? So I get aggravated though when someone with very, very strong opinions comes across as holier than thou, very, very loudly.
Yeah.
It's like, look, you want me to believe what you're telling me, and I could believe that you're 100% wrong. I might have all the facts, but I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to, like, I know I'm not going to get through to that person, so I'm not going to try. I'm going to let them, like, I'm going, hey, you be you. Stop yelling at me, though. Like, stop trying to change. If I believe a certain thing, like, if you didn't change my mind in the first 10 minutes, you're not changing it.
And more likely, you're not changing someone's. I mean, politics and religion. We say it all the time. Those are the two things you want to bring up at family dinners because you don't know where it's going to go. But it's absolutely true. I mean, everything when it comes to people's religious beliefs, it's what household you grew up in, where you were born, all these different things, and what you tend to believe. People aren't changing their minds if you put them in a room with another person of a different religion and just they start going at it. It's the same thing with politics nowadays. It's almost like party over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I do wonder if the thing that does worry me is that the administration does seem to be, I don't want to say targeting certain individuals, but when you see something like this where the guy is trying to, and this is why Elon's untouchable, and I'm going to be dead honest as far as like people are like, oh, they should take Elon's this away or that away, or they should take Elon's contracts away for SpaceX. It's like, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
First of all, he's the only person doing what NASA couldn't do. Mm-hmm. 2, he's pushed the agenda of electric cars, and he's the only company setting up usable charging stations that work. Like, you hear about EVgo, Electrify America, all those charging stations that were put up by other companies, they don't fucking work.
And also, with the charging stations, the receptacle, whatever it is that you plug into the car, he did not patent that.
On purpose.
So that everyone else could use it, so it could become a standard fitting, so that whether you're driving a Ford EV or a Volkswagen or whatever it is, you could pull up to a Tesla supercharged station and
it's pretty cool.
It would all fit.
Well, and those companies finally realized it because they've all now gone to that charging staple. And the reason why they did it, it wasn't because they were, oh, Elon's great. It's because Elon's charging network was better than anything else out there. And if those companies wanted to sell a Mach-E Mustang, they had to have access to the Tesla charging stations. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they weren't going to be able to drive the Mach-E from Detroit to Ohio without it being stranded on the side of the road because there weren't any reliable charging stations. There aren't enough of them in the country right now because of those ones that got paid by the government to put them in, they all fucking suck.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if I'm planning my route out with an electric car, which, you know, it's not that big of a deal to do, but if you plan it out to have, oh, I only got 30 miles left on my car, I'll plug it in here, and then you get there and that charging station doesn't work, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So essentially they had to rely on Elon's charging infrastructure. And that was one of the biggest things that they were going to have to do with EVs to begin with. So basically what I'm saying is, though, this one side of the political aisle that was pushing EVs, because the Republicans on the right certainly aren't. They don't think there should be this heavy of a push on electrical vehicles. So you have him doing one side of the political aisle's bidding for the most part. He brought the other manufacturers into EVs, which whether it sticks, I don't know. I mean, he's going to sell his EVs regardless because he's already put a brand name in it. The Mach-E's aren't selling. The 150 Lightnings aren't selling. A lot of these cars, once the initial adopters bought them, the rest of no one else really wants them.
Yeah.
So they're sitting on dealer lots. But he's the one that kind of pushed that agenda for them. And this whole thing in California with the SpaceX stuff, they're kind of spitting in his face. Like, hey, I brought you here, and now I'm trying to do this over here, which NASA's never going to be able to do because I can do it far cheaper than any of you, and you're going to spit in my face again. It was part of the reason why he left California and went to Texas for 2 of his companies, I think. Now, all that being said, as I'm riding his fucking junk right now, I do think he's not socially the smartest person on earth.
Well, he's autistic. And he came out when he did SNL, he caught a bunch of heat. I thought it was funny. And in his monologue, he said everyone's upset that, is that the autistic African-American boy is hosting SNL. But everything he said was 100% true. He's autistic. He's from South Africa. But people got really pissed off. It's like, can't we just have, why can't we just laugh at something?
Yeah, he's on the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah.
And I used to work with a guy that had Asperger's, and it was crazy. He could tell you, if you named any movie, he could tell you the year it was made. Mm-hmm. Any movie. Like, I'm not even kidding. You could come up and you'd go check it out. It's like, damn, he's right. So, I mean, sometimes you find some people that have these brilliant minds, and they're on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Their brain works a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think if you look back through time, that you see a lot of the geniuses probably were somewhere on the spectrum.
Before it was known what it was, right?
Yeah.
I don't doubt that.
So, because I think sometimes your brain only has so much capacity, and the fact, if your brain's doesn't have to use capacity to process emotional stuff, it can focus all that energy onto a task at hand, or knowing the when a movie was made, or being able to, mathematics, whatever the thing is that your brain's focusing on, it can focus everything on that, because it's not wasting horsepower on, does this person like me? They're smiling at me, like I should smile back. Like, they're not wasting any time with that.
Like, I'm the same kind of genius. It's just in, old movie quotes and music lyrics. That's it. That don't matter to anyone else but me.
There's a place for that.
Yeah.
I do wish people could compartmentalize some things, though. It's like, can we respect what he's doing over here?
Yeah.
And also, you could disagree with what he's doing over there, right?
Right.
And it's like, because I know this is probably an overused comparison if you want to compare him to, like, Tony Stark, right? Mm-hmm. Like, he's not Superman. He's not Iron Man. He's none of that shit. But as far as someone who's kind of moving us forward single-handedly as a people, technology-wise, as a society, I mean, think about it. The guy, he was one of the starters of PayPal. Think about how ingrained person-to-person transactions are now. Mm-hmm. Venmo, which is also a PayPal company now, but Venmo didn't exist back then. You got the Cash App. You have Apple Pay, Google Pay. Like, all of this stuff started with PayPal.
You could pay your taxes with PayPal.
Correct.
And I filed an extension because we found a new tax person that knew how to, do certain things. So we switched from the old one. And for the first time in my life, I had to stroke a check to the federal government. Uh-huh. You want to see someone that was really not happy about that? It was this guy. It was only $700. It was still $700.
It's $700 you didn't have to pay all years before.
And I go to pay on their thing, and they give you all these options. Well, one of them's PayPal. I'm like, I can PayPal the government?
Funny thing, I have direct deposit going to my PayPal. I was closing down a bank account and switching things up, and I wanted to make sure I didn't miss a pay period by switching up my direct deposit. So I saw you could do it. I kind of prefer it. I like it now. And then I have a PayPal, debit card to go along with it. So, like, all those companies now have created themselves not only as, like, these, cash companies, but also kind of turning into gigantic banks, for lack of a better,
Right. Handling PayPal even has a credit card, but it's like they're just handling most average Joe Americans are using their bank simply so they can, no one writes checks anymore either, but have a card, swipe it, pay bills, do things like that. Well, but they don't need all the other stuff that's on the back end, the savings account and the financial services and all the investments and then the too big to fail crap that all the bank. They just want the front end stuff. So PayPal can provide that. They don't need to have a single location anywhere. I had to walk into a bank. I forget what I was doing, but I think someone had written me a check, so I actually walked into the bank. I was like, I haven't walked into a bank in forever.
You didn't use the deposit on your phone?
No, I was near the bank, so I just walked in and took care of it. Like, it was, but we ran out of checks. We haven't ordered checks in forever. Who uses checks anymore?
I don't know the last time I've written one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think when the last time I wrote a check. I know I have checks. I got them upstairs. I think I still write a check to the county for, like, the water bill.
I think my wife does that too. My wife still is very old fashioned with. She's got her checkbook and.
Do you have the ledger?
Yeah, and she has me because she has me get ledgers from my bank all the time because she's with a credit union, and when she runs out, it's just easier. So, because I was with Bank of America, and it's just funny the way things work because I forgot when we moved from Perry Hall to Glen Burnie. You clean everything out. I was like, oh my god, what are these? It's like boxes of checkbooks that I've just never used.
You don't even know if you still have that bank account.
No.
When you find them, like, is this our account number? No, fuck.
There's a funny
Let's
story.
try to check on it, find out what it goes to.
Yeah. When I was working with Garceau in the afternoon, he got a deal with a bank. I think it was the Bank of Glen Burnie, and then the Bank of some. They changed their name a couple of times, and the deal was instead of him getting an endorsement fee or check, they would just deposit money in an account. Well, he'd done it for so long, and then he left the radio station, and all of a sudden they're reaching out, going, "Hey, we're switching banks again." It was another company had just bought them. It's like, what do you want to do with this $10,000 you've got in this account? And I'm going, it must be nice to forget about $10K.
Yeah, I try. Usually, it's you. When are you going to pay us this $10,000? You're always like, well, I forgot about that.
I mean, the other weird thing, and this is kind of like with banking, is, and maybe it's just me, but I've got like 6 different bank accounts. And I don't know why. Well, I do know why. One is because there was a credit union that I needed to get a loan through. And then I just kind of, with them, you have to have a checking and a savings account. Mm. And then you get the benefit of being part of that credit union. So, like, we got like an RV loan that was like 1.5% lower than anywhere else because that was the credit union to go with. So I've got 2 bank accounts with them. And then, of course, because they had low rates, I ended up getting a car loan through them. But then I've got, like, my USA bank account and savings account. And then I've got the PayPal and Cash App. So, like, it's like, there's so many. Like, if I die, my wife's fucked. Yeah. Because she got to find all the money. Like, she was like, you should really write all that down one day.
You should.
Like, I should.
Because when my father died, my mom took care of all the money, so she had everything written down. But when she died, I knew she had a book that she put all her usernames and passwords in. So it was really easy to go through and start getting stuff moving. And so thank God she had that, because if she didn't, I mean, there could still be stuff out there that I don't know, because I knew it was in the book. So Lindsay, my wife handles all that stuff for me, so I don't have to worry about.
Mine does the same.
So I'm terrible. I really should be more involved, because I know like certain things to do that make things better and easier. But she is, she has her way and doesn't want to deviate. I'm like, hey, start another bank account to pay for the kids' tuition to school. So we're not worried about like. It's just that money goes in and we don't have to think about it. Well, I like having it here. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to complain because you're handling it. I don't have to. So
I'm the one that I handle the money with us. It's a burden. Like, not that I wish she would do it, but it's just like, I remember at one point though in our marriage we were like, she was like, well, can I use $100 to do this or 100? I was like, look at the bank account. Because, like, I didn't want to be, like, the approver of expenses.
Yeah.
I didn't want to...
It seems like you're giving permission.
Yeah, I'm not doing that shit. Like, I told her one day, I was like, you have access to the bank account. Like, you can see it. Like, look there. You know what the mortgage is. You know what our bills are. If there's extra money on top of that, then yes, we have money for it.
I can't believe you went to the strip club with the guys.
I don't like dollar bill.
The thing is, for me, I don't buy a lot of stuff. So, like, I pack my lunch to work every day. I buy my nicotine pouches. That's about it. Like, that's what I spend my... Every now and then I'll buy a bottle of bourbon or a 12-pack of beer. But I'm not out there buying clothes and cars. I don't have a lot of toys. So it's...
I'm the same way. I mean, I spend all my money on... 5-hour energy, edibles, and DoorDash.
Hookers and blow.
Yeah. That's pretty much where all my cash goes.
So I was at, this is completely off the rails, I was at Walgreens over the summer. I had to go, because they have the LabCorp office there, so I had to get blood taken for a doctor's appointment. So I go and do that, come back out, like, maybe a snack. So, because Walgreens, they have like the best candy selection. So I love gummy candy. So I actually find some sort of gummy candy, I'm gonna go really wild.
Get some peach rings.
Oh, they're good.
I do like peach ring.
Yeah.
Actually, I like the fruit slices.
Fruit slices are good because they're almost like the fruit gems.
And, well, the fruit gems, they need to bring those back.
You like to put your tongue through the hole in the peach ring and pretend like you're back in college?
I mean, it does have its benefits, yes. I wish the ass tasted like that back then. I would have eaten more of it. But no, the fruit slices are my favorite.
They're good.
And plus, they have the greatest name because you can say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the store and get some fruit slices." Sounds like you're going to get something healthy, but you're not.
They're getting candy.
You bring back like 2 apples and then kind of pocket
your
the fruit
fruit
slices.
I like the twin cherries. They're good too.
There's not enough cherry in it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Coke, the Haribo Cokes. Mm-hmm. They used to have more Coke flavor.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like toned down. Like it's like, look,
They don't get it from Colombia anymore?
no, it's
See,
like you had the perfect amount of Coke in there.
See, I go old school and I get like good and plenty's. Like the licorice,
No, the old like
the
pink and white.
Yeah.
You like those?
Yeah.
Oh.
I ate a box today.
Oh,
Those aren't bad though. Like I'm giving the face like I'm like like I'm disgusted, but in the back of my mind I'm like it's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I get hot tamales. I like them.
I do like a hot tamale.
But
I love Raisinets. I'm a big raisin guy, so I know some people are like, ugh. Hey, you can put raisins in whatever with me, and I'll eat it.
I like the Raisinets. I like the yogurt covered raisins.
see, I'm not. They're trying. Now they're trying to hide fruit in my candy. So
Yeah.
you're smuggling.
I mean, it's good.
But
It tastes good.
so anyway, I go
Hating over there.
to buy this stuff, and I go to check out. There's one person to check out. The lady ahead of me she's got like a can of Monster, a bag of potato chips, and like condoms. Like this is the straight. And she goes, okay,
Tracks.
and then she says, "Oh, this is DoorDash, whatever." Like someone DoorDashed that, but I guess maybe if I had that order, I'd DoorDash it too. I mean, like you lazy fuck, you couldn't go down and buy your own Monster and condoms.
Hold on, was it Monster and condoms, or were they Monster condoms? Because then you might have to follow the DoorDash person home. Yeah, I got to see this.
No, they were it was definitely a Monster and a condom.
Could be the best way to get a date. You got to hope that your DoorDash driver's a girl.
Yeah, this one was. However, I don't know if I would need the condom after the visuals on this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
it wouldn't work,
No.
regardless of how much vitamin C you took.
Right.
It wasn't happening.
It's not functioning.
So, because this is probably, I mean, we probably got one more episode before the election, but we're not going to talk about it. I doubt we're going to do another political episode before then. We want to do predictions on who we think is going to win. And by the way, I don't think my life is going to change regardless of who wins. I think
I'm the same way.
So I really, at this point, I don't care. I'm not a fan of that Bureau of Disinformation bullshit that they try to do. However, I don't think life is going to change exponentially in either direction. But I still want to make a prediction, so let's do it.
Well, from a gambling standpoint, about 3 weeks ago, Kamala was a small favorite over Trump, and he's gained. Sometimes that's just more money coming in, but the gambling markets kind of tell you where they think it's at, and Trump's about a minus 130 favorite. So that'd be like a small home favorite if you were thinking about it, 3-point favorite at home. So it's kind of interesting to look at that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's who's going to win just because he's favored.
No, I saw the polls. The polls have Kamala. They show her in the lead, but her lead is less than what Joe Biden and Hillary had in the last 2 elections. So that's what they're worried about. They think the polls slant liberal in general. So like they think that you need at least a 6 to 10 point advantage in the polls in order to come out on top.
Yeah.
And she's got a 1.5 point lead in the polls, I guess, or I think the latest one was 0.9%. So they're like, this isn't tracking right. So I think he's gonna win. I think people on the left are gonna lose their minds. I think we're gonna see some riots in some cities around the country. I mean, we saw that in 2016. There were some DC riots.
I think you might see that no matter who wins.
You think so? I don't know. I think because of what happened with January 6th, I don't think that side of the political aisle is going to be so quick to get out in public and get themselves arrested.
You mean when the insurrectionists all showed up to the Capitol to overthrow the government? The gun-loving insurrect, and they didn't bring any of their guns with them.
Okay, the coup, the gunless coup. Yeah. But I found it hilarious when they call it an insurrection or a coup. It's like, I don't think you've ever seen an insurrection or a coup. I mean, you could have literally in 2020 you could have looked at Myanmar and seen what one of that looked like.
Yeah, with
like machine guns and fucking people just getting mowed down. The other ones that were very interesting, and there's a. It was what was it? I don't know if it was HBO or on Netflix, but it was called Spy. And it was about an Israeli asset that was planted inside the Syrian government. And it was during the time when the Baathists took over Syria. And they literally went in machine guns blazing, took out the entire government. Just mowed them down. And the same thing happened in Iraq with Saddam, because Saddam was a Baathist at the time. Mowed down the entire old government that was there. No one survived. Like, there were very few survivors, and anyone that survived, they had to go abroad to like London or something like that. Yeah. So that's what a coup looks like for anyone that wants to know. Like, it's bloody, and no one fucking survives if you're in the government. So dudes with zip ties ain't taking a government over.
Yeah,
it ain't happening like that. Like, what were they going to do? The guys with guns were eventually going to come and take them out. You know, if it got to that point, and that being the army or the National Guard.
The only person that died was that chick. So
I heard she's still alive. No, I'm kidding.
With Epstein,
right? They actually went to the island together. That island in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, so predictions. I see. I don't even think he's going to win. To be honest with you, I think some fuckery is going to happen. And I think they're probably gonna. I think they'll probably keep control somehow. I don't know though.
Well, the Uniparty and the military-industrial complex and all that, they have a vested interest in making sure.
Dick Cheney's on that side now. What the fuck happened there?
Well, the big problem too is until you get kind of everything going one way, you probably won't get anything done in this country. And I don't care if that's left or right, because I mean, if the Congress is going left and we've got a conservative president, they're going to try to block everything they want to get done and back and forth. We don't get anything passed anymore.
We had our best governance, though, when that happened to Clinton in his second term. So I don't know. And so Newt Gingrich was it Newt Gingrich or Trip Speaker? I forget which guy.
Gingrich, I think it was.
It was that was the last 2 or 4 years. They actually hit a budget surplus and got shit done. When it was divided. Now, I don't think that would happen nowadays. I think that was just a rare stroke of people actually doing something for people, the people of the country at the time. Nowadays, it's all identity politics and shit, and they're never going to do that again.
Was that right after We Are the World? Because that brought in a lot of money.
It was right. I think it was around that.
That's where the surplus came from. I don't think they ever sent it over to Africa.
How many assholes do you think were tickled in that party?
Oh, not enough.
I mean, shoot, know what we know now about Diddy and the Hollywood parties and shit. I mean, I would love to, like, if I had a crystal ball, I just want to know what's going to come of that. Like,
you just want to know all the names. Who was there? Who was?
Are people like actually going to go to jail for that, or what? I don't know.
I mean, you saw some celebrities scrub their social medias or delete them entirely. They've been pointing out different celebrities that have been linked to Diddy. They're all in different countries right now. You know,
Russell Simmons lives in Malaysia now? He left the country a while ago, like years ago. Russell Simmons left, so they can't touch him.
Those ladyboys.
He probably didn't want to end up in the fucking federal penitentiary. Is what happened with him.
There's a demon inside me.
Wonder which way he went in. Front or the back. But anyway, I mean, so no, that was one. I didn't even know Russell Simmons left the country. But apparently he left like 5-6 years ago. Quietly.
A lot of accusations there, too. So.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's why. Like, he knew they were coming for him. And he's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Took all his money, went. And he's living, I mean, that's one thing people I don't think realize. Like, you can go overseas and like one of those Southeast Asian countries or some of these other countries that are beautiful, and you don't have to live with the riffraff.
Mm-hmm.
You
I
can
know you have like servants and
hell yeah, and it doesn't cost that much. Like I used to do some work for some people that used to work in what was that fucking country? Nepal. These dudes, their annual salaries were like maybe 50, 60 grand. So I mean, not chump change, but not millionaire. Mm-hmm. They were able to afford huge house, servants, drivers, butlers, cooks, everything. And it was kind of like you were expected to have, like if you had certain means, you were expected to have all of those servants. So it wasn't like a demeaning thing. You were expected to employ people if you had that kind of money.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like you owed it to the
trying to keep jobs going. And
yes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Russell Simmons with that kind of money, shit, man. He's probably got a compound with like 30, 40 employees just waiting on him hand and foot, never has to work again a day in his life. Might be doing it right. I mean, I'm not going, but
yeah,
I don't do well in that kind of heat. You know, I'd melt.
Yeah, I don't like that kind of heat.
All right, seems like we beat this pig.
Yeah.
Wait, did you? No, okay. You guys got to give me the predictions though.
Oh,
Haven't gotten them.
I'm gonna bet on fuckery and her.
I think Trump wins.
I'm going with fuckery too. I think she wins. So I want to win.
What I should do is put money on her, then I'll lose. Because that's how.
The reverse jinx.
Yeah.
What is it? I think right now it's if you put 40 cents on her, you get $1. Isn't that what it is?
No, you would get $1.40 or $1.30 right now.
If you put $1 on her.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's plus 130.
Yeah. I mean, shoot.
Or she's been, so no, it's more like plus 110. So, because the fact that Trump's going up, it's weird when you have a money line thing where it's got to be a winner or loser. Mm-hmm. They never make it quite fair. It's usually like 40 points in between. So if one's minus 110, you're going to see the other one minus 130. You get what I'm saying? So
the percentages right now
are
are
plus 110.
So Trump's at 60, she's at 40%. That's that's
close,
percentage.
basically. Yeah.
I wonder what that. Not that I'm going to bet on it. I can't do that.
Somebody just dropped $750,000 on Trump.
Jesus. On a political campaign. Dropping that kind of... Was it Drake?
No, they didn't say who it was.
That guy... Do you see the money that dude drops on UFC fights?
Yeah, you just want to find out who he's betting and then take the opposite.
Right? He dropped like $1 million on a dude one time.
Yeah.
Like, the world these people are living in, that they can just drop $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm worried over $5. Like, goddamn. I don't want to lose $5. He's like, I'm dropping $1 million. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope to see you real soon. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. I want to thank Adam Chubbuck with TACMD.com. That's TACMD.com. If you are in the market for any kind of real estate needs, go check him out. I also want to say any thoughts and expressions on this show are our own opinions and do not represent anyone else other than our own opinions. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.